So, VK on the beat, check. I'm in Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm from Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm in Toronto like we wanna get the city love. My city love me back for my city love.
Welcome to episode 1593 of Toronto Mic'd, proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery who believes in supporting communities, good times, and brewing amazing beer. Order online for free local home delivery in the GTA. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. Season 7 of Yes, We Are Open, an award-winning podcast from Monaris, hosted by FOTM Al Grego. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. And Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of the community since 1921. Joining me today, making his Toronto Mike debut, is Order of Canada recipient, Stephen Stohn. Welcome, Stephen.
Mike, I'm delighted to be here, and what a great little studio this is. I don't know whether people realize all the memorabilia around the walls.
Wait, do you want to describe it for them? I mean, they don't see it. That's true. There's no camera on it. You have to sit in the studio to see it. But I sort of surrounded myself with things I often talk about on this very program.
Yeah, well, you've got some, are those bobblehead dolls?
Yeah, there's a Doug Flutie gifted to me by Jackie Perez from the Argos. There's a Vlad Guerrero Jr. I think Canada Kev gave me that. Stohn. Okay, so your name is Stephen Stohn.
Yeah.
Stohn.
And yesterday, yes.
Yesterday was Stohn. Oh, you saw that. Now, Stohn, that's a fake last name. Okay, so Stuart Eisenstein adopted the name Stone when he was a young actor. He's got a question for you I'm going to ask you later. But he gave me that George the Animal Steel wrestling figure. That's my Andre the Giant cup from 1985 when I was in love with WWF wrestling. And yeah, there's a, Maestro Fresh West, Tom Wilson. There's a Wendell Clark autograph there. There's the Last Pogo, Colin Brunton's film from the Horseshoes when the Garys were running it. That's Sam the Record Man. That's Kurt Swinghammer. That was a birthday gift from Rob Pruce of Spoons. That Much Music that Much Music logo, that's a gift from David Kynes. And Ken Daniels sent me a box of old Blue Jays and Maple Leaf memorabilia that he held on to for a very long time. And that Shoppers Drug Mart calendar, I believe that's the 1986 calendar. And I keep it stuck on May because that month featured my favorite Blue Jay of all time, George Bell.
And you are too young to know who George the Animal Steel is.
No, you've got my age way wrong there. Big time wrestler when he would eat the turnbuckles in the early mid 80s on WWF wrestling. I think was it who was his manager? The guy with the rubber bands in his face. Anyway, okay. Bottom line is I watched a lot of George the Animal Steel wrestle on Maple Leaf Wrestling and the Cavalcade, and no, not too young for that.
Okay.
But nice to meet you, my friend.
Excellent to be here.
You're a friend of Jeff Rogers, is that right?
A really good friend of Jeff Rogers. Goes back almost 40 years.
So he's on a bit of a roll. I'm going to pump Jeff Rogers' tires for a moment because he introduced me to literally he's a neighbor of mine, and he came to my event on Saturday at Palma's Kitchen, and his name is Jerry Levitan. Do you know the name Jerry Levitan?
Only because Jeff has mentioned it.
So he, at 14 years old, he interviews John Lennon at the King Edward Hotel there on King Street. And he made a documentary about it eventually, and it was nominated for an Oscar. And Jerry was a great guest, and that's because Jeff introduced me to him. But very recently, in fact, you got bumped. You were in my calendar for last week, and Jeff said, Rob Nash is only in Toronto for, 5 days or something. If you want him in the basement, you got to drill a hole in the schedule. And I'm like, I'm bumping Stephen Stohn.
Oh, my God. No, I love Rob Nash. What an incredible person he is.
How do you know Rob?
Well, through Jeff. And so I followed Rob's career. We've had dinners together. And he talks about, I didn't listen to that podcast, but did he tell you about going into prisons and how he goes in and you've seen him. So he's got tattoos.
6'5".
Yeah.
He's got a mohawk.
But he's sort of face to face with these hardened criminals. But he can talk with them.
Yeah, he touched on that remarkable conversation, really. And people have told me, hey, I had to watch the documentary. You can see it now, his documentary. That episode really moved me, but I said it moved me, but I had to move you to make that happen. So I appreciate you accommodating me so I could have Rob Nash down here.
Yeah, it was great.
Do you have is that the pin I see? Okay, so can you please tell me, do you get a phone call when? Like, do you get a call saying, Mr. Stohn, we'd like to honor you by, I don't even know the terminology. You tell me, how did you get the Order of Canada?
Well, I almost didn't. I was always going to get it, but I get all these, as you undoubtedly do, random phone calls. They're spam. And because I was an American citizen, I've lived all my life in Toronto, but I happened to be born in Denver, Colorado. So I was always getting these calls from the United States and from weird area codes, and I would never answer them.
Right.
And so I think it was a 473. I may have the area code wrong, was coming up, and it called again and again. I didn't answer it. And one time I accidentally answered it. And this very nice young woman named Emily said, I'm calling from the Governor General's office in Ottawa. Yeah.
You know what? That's fantastic. What happens if you never answer? Do you just eventually get a piece of snail mail saying, hey, here's your pin?
Exactly. We hope there's not a postal strike on it at the
Oh,
time.
that's right. You never get it. Well, okay. So that was 2023? When did you get the appointment to the Order of Canada?
It was over a year ago, and I still haven't had the real ceremony where you go up to Rideau Hall. My wife has the Order of Canada, so I've been to
so
one
please
of them.
tell, because there is a segment. In fact, we have a listener who was going to wake up early to go on the live stream just because of this fun fact. Who's your wife?
Linda Schuyler.
That's amazing. That's Degrassi creator Linda Schuyler.
Yes, and she created Degrassi almost accidentally back in the late 1970s. She wanted to get into film. And so her friend, she was a teacher at the time, who was librarian at the high school, ordered all these books like How to Make a Film and things like that, and came up with this book, Ida Makes a Movie, which he hadn't realized was not about how to make a film. It was a little story about a girl who makes a film.
Right.
But she was charmed by it, and she wanted to buy the rights to it. It was out of print, so she was directed to this young lawyer who just recently graduated from the bar, named Stephen Stohn.
Wow.
And I gave her some
good-looking young lawyer.
It worked out very well because I gave her some free legal advice, which is you don't need a lawyer. Here's a form where you can buy all audiovisual rights. You go and negotiate, offer them $200, whatever, and see what happens. And I didn't see her again for a few years. But that little book, she shot it. It was called Ida Makes a Movie.
Yeah.
And it seemed to do fairly well. It wasn't on television, but it got into high schools. So she shot another named Noel Buys a Suit. And then Casey joins the gang. And then the CBC wanted to broadcast this little series. And they said, well, what do we call it? It's about Ida and Casey. And what the hell do we call it? They may have not said, what the hell do we call it? They said, what appropriate branding do we give? And she
Can
said,
I guess? Oh, no, I don't want to steal your story. Keep going. I love this story.
And she said, I don't know what to call it, but it's about kids. And we shot it at my friend Bruce, the librarian's house, and he lives on Degrassi Street. So why don't we call it the Kids of Degrassi Street?
Wow. See, how do I get Linda in this basement?
Oh, she'll come.
Okay.
She'll come.
Will you introduce me to your wife? And Andy, are you listening? I want Linda down here. Get that story. I'm a big fan of. I watched the Kids of Degrassi Street. Literally, I went to a school near Jane and Bloor, and they would walk us to the Runnymede Library, and we'd watch it in the library.
Oh, my Lord.
I know.
Oh, well, it became like in the sex education classes and things like that.
Right. But then when Degrassi Junior High, I was there, like that was appointment viewing for me. I'm a big fan of the, any listener knows this. So we will get to Degrassi because I have I got so much to talk to you about. There's new music I want to talk to you about, but I know where I want to start. Are you ready? Here we go. This is where I want to begin, okay? Let's absorb this for a moment.
How I've fallen from your favor, the sweet love you've taken away, the sound of goodbye through the night, and I must wait through lost days like love I am blind, but I'm trying to find a way to make it all right. Maybe your heart will be broken, waiting for words that are never spoken. Maybe your heart will be broken into like mine.
Now, Stephen, sometimes I have to remind myself, not everybody knows all these fun facts like you do, Mike. So I don't want to make any assumptions here, so I'm going to blow some minds. That voice we're hearing right there, I'll point to the Much Music logo on the wall, was also tied with J.D. Roberts, the first VJ on Much Music. Christopher Ward.
He was not only the first, but even before Much Music. They ran a kind of a precursor to it on City TV, just on City TV, and I think it started at 1 in the morning and ended in 4 in the morning, and he could do whatever. They didn't have a lot of videos at that time, so Christopher...
But he had a good friendship with a guy named Mike Myers who would come on and do Wayne Campbell.
Yeah. And Wayne Campbell, the Wayne character was created during that. There are some really hilarious moments on that City Limits show. And because Christopher knew by 3 o'clock in the morning, no one was watching, so he could do whatever he wanted.
And you're so right. That's like the precursors. So John Martin, who was the first guy in charge of Much Music, working with Moses there at Chum City at 99 Queen East, before it moved to 299 Queen West. You're absolutely right. That City Limits, that was the sort of the proof of concept.
And Christopher and I went back long before then because we went to university together.
Okay, let's start there because obviously the mind blow is that, and when Christopher Ward made his Toronto Mike debut, we opened as well with his, I call it the yacht rock era there, the yacht rock.
I am so pleased that you're talking about yacht rock. People do not like the term yacht. I would be so delighted if somebody said, oh, the songs you're writing, that's yacht rock. I would go, yes.
Because yachts are well crafted, right? These are well crafted pieces of music we're listening to here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't actually have a desire to have a yacht, but, it's a kind of a dream. You're there. There's people all around. You're having margaritas, and it's sunny, and it's warm. Yeah.
So Christopher Ward, yacht rocker, and this is obviously before he's a Much Music VJ. And eventually, he'd go on to co-wrote a little song people might know. Black Velvet, I think it's called. It might have been a hit. Who remembers, right, Stephen? But talk to me about your friendship with Christopher Ward and how you co-wrote that song.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we became friends in university, and Trent University, I'm now the chancellor at Trent University.
Congratulations.
I love being the chancellor. You get to chat with students, and chancellors, nobody knows what a chancellor does.
What does a chancellor do?
All a chancellor has to do is sort of hang around during convocation time and hand out degrees. But I'm there every week. I just love the place. Peterborough is a beautiful town. It's a beautiful campus. There are great people there. But I was there almost at the very beginning of Trent as a student. So we didn't have a student newspaper. We didn't have a student radio station. And Christopher and I co-founded the Trent University Radio Service.
Wow.
And it only went for 4 hours on Sunday evenings. It was simulcast on 2 competing radio stations in Peterborough because they couldn't sell any advertising time during that time. So we just did it on tape, 4 hours of tape, and we'd literally bicycle it down to CKPT in downtown Peterborough and to Checks on the Hill. And on Sunday nights, right after Del Crary and his show was brought to you by the Comstock Funeral Home. And he had one of those beautiful radio voices. And then we would go over to the Trent University Radio Service for 4 hours.
So that show had a funeral home sponsor?
Well, the intro to the show had a
intro.
funeral sponsor.
Okay, well, that's enough for me to tell you this show has a funeral home sponsor. And Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of the community since 1921, have sent over a measuring tape for you, Stephen. So you have the Order of Canada and you have a measuring tape from Ridley Funeral Home.
Is this to measure my coffin?
If you wish, absolutely. But good
I'm
people
pleased.
there. Now, Brad Jones was over yesterday. We recorded an episode of his podcast, Life's Undertaking. We dropped it yesterday. And we had a great conversation with a woman who lost her brother in war in Afghanistan. And she talks about how when a loved one passes, like there's the parents, oh my goodness, you lost a child, and then there's, the children, but the siblings are often kind of, oh, can you arrange this and make sure we have sandwiches at the funeral? And siblings need to mourn as well, and there's a whole different dynamic there. And anyways, that's the most recent episode of Life's Undertaking with Brad Jones from Ridley Funeral Home. But is this radio station at Trent? Now it would be called CFFF-FM.
I know. It's great to say CFFF.
That's a lot of F's.
That's right.
I don't need to know what that stands for here. So you go that far back with Christopher Ward.
And we started writing songs together. We formed a group called Cookies and Milk. And our log line, of course, was already a household name. And we would sing sweet Everly Brothers songs, with those nice
harmonies.
Yes,
of course.
Absolutely. And then we'd get a case of beer, and in an afternoon we'd write some songs. And they weren't very good songs necessarily. But we really loved doing it. This was all on guitar. Back in the days when you could pull out a guitar at a university or anywhere, and people would gather around and they'd sing.
Right.
And so we wrote more and more songs. And eventually we ended up traveling together in a Volkswagen bus throughout Europe. Wow. And to make money, we'd just go into a local cafe or something and see if we could at least get a meal out of the owner by playing some songs. Yeah.
Unbelievable. And then I guess when Christopher Ward is taking us, I wasn't around to appreciate whether that song I just played got heavy Canadian radio play, but you were there. You're a writer of that song. Would that song be played on, I don't know, 1050 Chum?
Oh, it absolutely was. And it was a top 10 hit across Canada. It was number 1 in Quebec City, of all places, but it was top 10 most of the places. And we started out, there was a period of time when Christopher and I did not get along. After we traveled together, that's tough.
Right.
I just never wanted to see him again. But one day I was in Peterborough, and my friend Cheryl Davies said, "Oh, Christopher Ward is here. You'll really want to come on over." And I was like, no, I do not want to see Christopher Ward. But suddenly there he was in the door. And so I had to be polite. I mean, we were Canadians after all. And he came to me and he said, "Now, I know you're a young lawyer. I've been offered a deal from Warner Brothers. They want to put out a single. Can you help me?" And I said, "Well, I really can't, because I'm just I'm not even a real lawyer yet, but my boss could help you. Tell me the story." And he said, "Well, here it is. There's a song called Lost in a Love Song that they want to record. It's kind of a country song. Let me play it for you." So now I was trapped. I had to listen to the song.
Right.
And I listened, and I said, "Christopher, that is a really good song. I understand why Warner's wants to sign you." And he said, "You idiot, you fool." And I thought, now I know why I never want to speak with Christopher Ward again. And I was getting up to walk out, and he said, "You wrote that song when we were back playing at the Playboy Club in Ankara, Turkey for 6 weeks. And it was called Must Have Lost My Way back then. Now I've written new lyrics to it. It's called Lost in a Love Song." And that was the first song that we wrote together that got on the radio, an old country song.
That's a great story. That's a tremendous story. You idiot. You wrote that song. At that moment, he could have taken full credit for that song.
Oh, absolutely. I never would have known.
Oh, at least you can trust Christopher Ward.
Yes.
He's going to tell it like it is. Okay, so you're essentially, his songwriting partner.
Absolutely. So we went out and we decided to write some more songs, and mostly I would write the melodies and he would write the lyrics. And we came up with a song called Once in a Long Time that Warner's really liked, and they put it out as a single. It did very well in Canada. But after it had been out for a while, gotten a lot of radio play, but not a lot of sales, the head of A&R sat us down and he said, "We're ready to do the album, but we need a hit single.
Right.
And we just don't think it's there." So we were devastated. And we walked out, and Christopher said, it was kind of gallows humor. "Okay, you're going up to your cottage. That was where you wrote Once in a Long Time. Come back on Monday with the hit single." And I laughed, and I said, "Yeah, okay, I'll do that. But by the way, it's gonna sound like Barry Manilow." Because I knew he didn't like Barry Manilow. And halfway through the song, when we come out of the middle eight, it's going to modulate up just a half tone because that's a songwriting trick that he hated. And so we laughed. And then I went up to the cottage and sat down at this old upright piano and wrote the melody to Maybe Your Heart Will Be Broken.
Wow.
And it does exactly that. It's, it ends up on a really high note at the end with swirling strings, but it's a half tone higher by the end of the song. And
Oh my goodness gracious. So what comes first? Meeting Linda as a new lawyer or the songwriting success here with Christopher Ward?
The songwriting success was, I was in law school, so it must have been early 80s. I'd already met Linda, but I'd sort of lost her. And it wasn't until Degrassi Junior High came back on when she said, oh, I really need, who was that nice young lawyer who never charged me anything?
Right.
And she called me up, and I helped out from then on. And I was the lawyer for Degrassi Junior High. Then we became husband and wife, and we co-produced all the Degrassi Next Generation and Instant Star and all of the other things we produced together.
Well, here, maybe that's a good time for me to, and again, Andy was at TMLX 17. She's been a listener since day one. She's been to, I think she's been to 16 of the 17 events I've hosted. By the way, Stephen, when I do host the next event, which might not be till June, you're getting an invitation. Great Lakes Brewery would be amazing to get you to TMLX 18.
And I'll bring my wife, Linda.
Well, by then she'll be in FOTM because we're going to be, between now and then, Linda is going to make her Toronto Mic debut here.
Wonderful.
We're going to make that happen. But here's the song I was going to play. All right, if you don't recognize that song, you're not a Degrassi head. That's the next generation. That's Degrassi the next. So you mentioned, okay, so you're basically the lawyer for Degrassi Junior High, Degrassi High, that's my Degrassi. You're a stone's throw right now from the facade for Degrassi Junior High, which is literally a stone's throw from here.
Yeah. But I have a gift for you.
Okay, I love gifts because I will have more gifts for you shortly.
This is my book.
Okay.
Which talks all about me.
Yeah.
And it's called Whatever It Takes.
Okay.
And of course, I co-wrote the theme song to Degrassi. That's why you played it.
So that song I just played, you co-wrote.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah, with my friends Jody Calero and Jim McGraw. And that song has the distinction of having on YouTube alone more than 162 million streams. Because when Aubrey Graham, better known as Drake,
right,
did his I'm Upset video, which he shot on the lot of Degrassi, The Next Generation, because by then we were shooting in a studio, and it was a studio my wife and I built.
Right.
And so he shot it on the back lot there. It was a day, I think it was in July, it must have been about 5 years ago, beautiful summer day. It was over 3 days. And he did the I'm Upset video with a whole bunch of his Degrassi alum friends. Kevin Smith wrote the script for the video.
Right.
And at the end of it, as an homage, he put that song, Whatever It Takes, over the credits. And so as a result, Whatever It Takes has 162 million streams.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
Isn't that wild? Now, okay, so you alluded to the fact your role in this version of Degrassi, The Next Generation, it's a different role than it was during my OG Degrassi years where you were like the lawyer. So in addition to co-writing the theme we just heard, which is a mind blow unto it. So by the way, who's the lead vocalist on that song?
Oh, that was, a young woman.
I'm putting you on the spot here.
Yes, and I know her very, very well. She won the Juno Award in 1978.
You know what?
For Best New Artist.
We'll let Andy will put it in the live chat. There's a live chat here. I will check back in about 2 minutes because there's a little bit of a delay, and we'll find out. Andy will give us that name, so we won't leave you hanging too long. But what exactly is your role now with Degrassi: The Next Generation?
Well, Linda and I brought it back, co-produced it together. We, bought this old warehouse that we turned into a studio, and we had created a soap opera together called Riverdale. Now, Linda does the creation. I'm not on that side, on the film side. I love the music side, as you can imagine, but on the creation side. And for 3 years, we shot this soap opera called Riverdale. Do not mistake it for the hit series Riverdale, which has been on more recently.
No, that's the Archie's comic River. This is our Riverdale.
This is the real Riverdale. This
Right.
is the authentic Riverdale. And it was a soap opera that went on CBC that got canceled, but we had built this entire studio and backlot to accommodate it. And one day, one of our writers said, we've always wanted to bring Degrassi back. The character Emma that you, Mike, would have loved from the OG days.
Yes.
She was the baby girl to Spike when Spike got pregnant when she was only
Right,
15
with
years
Snake's
old.
baby.
Yeah,
No, Shane.
Shane's baby.
Don't
yes,
mix. No, not Shane.
no.
No, like that's
That's right. I was thinking
Snake. Sorry.
that is very weird.
No, the names conflated in my head. Of course, it was Shane's baby.
Yeah. Emma would be almost ready to go to Degrassi Junior High now. Why don't we do a kind of a soap opera, but it would be Degrassi? We'd bring back Degrassi. And I immediately blurted out, I think that's a fantastic idea. And I'm a Star Trek fan. So I said, yeah, it's Degrassi, the next generation. and it sort of grew from there. By the way,
Yeah.
I know we're jumping all over the
No,
place.
it's okay because I'm going to bring you back to Riverdale in a minute, but I keep going.
The name Emma
Yeah.
came from the fact it was Linda and her then partner, Kit Hood, were nominated for and won an international Emmy for one of the episodes. In fact, I think for that episode, for It's Too Late, which was the episode in which Spike gets pregnant and decides, later on to keep the child. And they said, oh, we won an Emmy for this. We should name the child, because the child at the time didn't have a name.
Right.
We'll name the child Emmy. Emma.
No, I love those fun facts here. Okay, so I have a question. I've always wondered this. So I had Jonathan Torrens on this program, early guest actually. He was amazing. He's a sweetheart. But he plays Shane in the. Is it a movie?
Oh no, it was no. We brought him back, but the original.
Right. This is where I'm going. Why did we change Shane's? I've been wondering this for decades now.
We had signed actually the original actor who played Shane, whose name I do not remember now.
Right. I'll Google that one.
And at the last moment, for whatever reason, this was fairly early on when we brought Degrassi, the Next Generation, back. He just didn't want to do it, and we had a contract. But what are you going to do?
Okay, so the actor the original Shane didn't want to come back.
That's
so
right.
you needed to recast the role.
So we recast the role, and Jonathan had been very involved with. First of all, he's a wonderful guy. I'm sure have you had him on?
Yeah,
here?
he's been here.
Oh yeah. And Degrassi in reruns, your Degrassi had been in reruns all through the 90s at about 4:00 in the afternoon on CBC.
Right.
And Jonathan Torrens had done some specials with Degrassi.
Yeah, like
we
John
knew him.
O'Vision.
Exactly. And I think he'd done a Degrassi special. Anyway, somebody said, why doesn't Jonathan do the role? Because we were, it was kind of very last moment. And he said yes.
Well,
and we were delighted.
he would love that. And the actor who turned down returning, thank you to Andy on the live stream, is Bill Parrott.
Bill Parrott, exactly. That's the name. Yeah.
And the singer of that theme song, I believe, is Lisa Del Bello.
It is Lisa Del Bello. And maybe your listeners can verify that she won the Best New Artist Juno back in,
Okay.
I'm going to say 1978.
More work for you, Andy. Let us know. Lisa Del Bello's sister-in-law has been on the program. This is how I'm going to connect it. Danny Elwell, who married Lisa's brother. And I've been actively trying to get Lisa Del Bello over here because she sings on Tears Are Not Enough. And I'm trying to collect all the living legends I can. Neil Young hasn't returned my call yet, but nor has Joni Mitchell, actually. But I'm trying to collect these Tears Are Not Enough performances. But quick, back to Riverdale. Then I got more Degrassi things, and then I have new music from you. I can't wait to play. And I want to thank you before I forget. Thank you for the gift. I'm going to give you some more gifts as well. I will read whatever it takes, and then I'm sure Andy's got a copy, but I'll lend it to her if she doesn't. So I'm just looking at the cast of Riverdale, and here's a fun fact. So the late great Paul Soles was in the cast. And Paul's nephews, the Cowans, Ellie Cowan and Rob Cowan, they have been over talking about their dad, Bernard Cowan. So Bernard Cowan, I guess, Paul Soul's brother, I suppose is how that works. And I want to shout out Jane Eastwood, who has been on Toronto Mic'd, because I see Jane Eastwood was in this cast. And Melissa Del Marco's been here as well. She's also in The Next Generation, of course. But just checking quickly who I met from this cast. But Riverdale, we're moving on. For all the Riverdale heads, we'll have to wait for Stephen Stone's next appearance, because I got to get back to Degrassi. Would you share a little bit about, did you at any point realize this kid playing Jimmy Brooks might have something? Like maybe he's got some music talent? Was there any hint of that on set?
Oh, there was more than a hint. Still have in storage some early mixtapes from him. And we all were really tried to talk him into getting his music into Degrassi and to have him rapping and dancing. Now, listen, I'm 76 years old now. I'm an old white guy. I don't pretend to be an aficionado of rap music.
Okay.
But Aubrey had it. He just had that sense of vulnerability and charm. And when he walked into a room, he sort of captured the room. And his music captured the room as well. And he resisted very much. Now, we did manage to talk him into occasional performances of his music. And particularly in webisodes that we do, because that was a little bit, the webisodes were, of course, on the web, not on the main show. But it was right near the end of his, because he was with us for 7.5 years, I'll say, because at the end he was heading off into his career in music. And he, there's a funny story that he would show up late or sleepy to his shows later on, and we had to call him into the principal's office, which meant he had to go into Linda's office.
Right.
And Linda would say, Aubrey, we just don't work this way. You have to show up on time. And after that, to give Aubrey total credit, he was there bang on time every night. But what we didn't learn out till later, that what he was doing was he was going into the studio until late at night, and he would just crash, and he would just, be late in the morning. How he solved it, we didn't know this, was he made a pact with the security guards, and he would sleep on set in one of the bedroom sets, and then they would wake him up just in time to get onto set and to get into hair and makeup for his appearance.
That's amazing. But the real mind blow is that you might have in your personal collection somewhere early Drake mixtapes. We got to dig those up.
I'll try digging them up.
After I get Linda over, I'm going to just come over and rummage through the crates, and I'm going to see what I can find. There might be some valuable gems in there. Not really, although he did appear, as I recall. So I want to ask you about an actor who we lost far too soon under some sad circumstances, because you might be my closest link to having this discussion till I get Linda on. But I want to ask you about Neil Hope.
Yeah.
So Neil Hope, of course, for us OG Degrassi heads, what a key part of that cast. And he played Wheels. And, of course, the Zit Remedy, okay? Remind me to get back to the Zit Remedy. Not Yacht Rock, but I have a question about that song too. So let me make sure I get back to that. But the way we fans found out that Neil Hope had passed away, and then I remember the announcement that, but he's actually been gone for several years. Like, I can't remember if it was 5 years, but something that very strange, because he was such a part of our lives, our weekly lives. We would spend a half an hour with this man. Remember the Zit Remedy? That School is Out special. Oh, I got to get back to that. But again, I promised you an hour, so this might be part 2. But could you say a few words about Neil Hope?
It was Neil and Linda were very close. And Neil had a difficult upbringing. His parents were alcoholics. And he was troubled, but he and Linda became very close. And then after the OG, after School's Out, he would go away for long periods of time, but then he'd come back. And in The Next Generation, we did talk him into coming back for one of the early episodes, so that in effect the Zit Remedy could get back together.
Right.
And so we saw him then, and then he disappeared again. And we weren't, all that upset, and because he had this habit of disappearing, but it went on and on. And as you say, sort of 5 years. And then the tragic death, he died on his own in a rooming house in Hamilton. And it was just extraordinarily upsetting. And, when you've got a difficult upbringing and you battle demons, it's nowadays we talk about mental health a lot more than even we did back then. And certainly more than we did, 25, 30 years ago. It's a crisis that we face. And you had Rob Nash on.
Yes.
And Kids Help Phone now is something very close to Rob and to us. I'll give you a fun fact about Kids Help Phone. Before COVID, they interacted with, and I'll say kids, but up to about age 25, about 1.4 million times a year. And if you think about that in the terms of Canada having 40 million people, how many of those are in that demographic and how many of those are having difficulty? That's a huge number. It's now up closer to 5 million since COVID. The mental health crisis is enormous. Well, I've gotten off track on that because you were asking about Neil
No, I'm
Hope,
glad you
but
did that though, because people really do need to listen to Rob Nash on Toronto Mike. It's only a week ago we recorded that one, and I'm still getting notes from people who were saying, I listened on the subway, I was weeping. There's moments in that when he pulls out the suicide notes that the kids give him. There's moments in that episode where I'm speechless, to be quite honest. So go listen to that. But for Neil Hope, and I always wondered, okay, so the fictional character Wheels has such a tragic arc, right? The school's out with he's drinking and driving and the accident, and he goes to jail. And then we do see him come back in The Next Generation. I remember tuning in just because it was going to be a Zit Remedy. But I always wondered if maybe he carried some of that with him. I don't know.
I don't know. You may be sort of being a true fan and sort of imposing your thoughts
I
on
am
the
doing
character.
that. Absolutely. A lot of speculation.
We used to get fans.
I forgot I have a lawyer here. Yeah, of course.
who would send, when Spike got pregnant, the postman would come with these huge bags of mail, and they would have they'd have presents for Amanda Steptoe, because
you can get confused, right?
You get confused. And in fact, all the way through, and the cast were very forgiving of me. I was 50-50 whether I would call them by their real name or their character name.
Joey.
That's right, exactly.
It's Pat, Stephen. It's Pat. It's Joey. Oh, Joey Jerry. He's also, Joey, Caitlin, they've been on. Love it so much. But who wrote the Zit Remedy song?
I believe it was, there was some close friends of ours, Wendy and Lou, and I think it was Wendy's or Lou's brother, who wrote maybe the melody and did.
Everybody wants something.
Yes.
They'll never give
and sort of the arrangement
up.
of it, like Pat Mastroianni and the Zit Remedy themselves sort of took the words and the lyrics and then sort of made it their own. So
here's my beef. What's your beef? That was Street Sense, another Jonathan Torrens product I used to watch there, Street Sense on CBC. But if you want to hear that song for nostalgia purposes, because nostalgia is the drug of choice around here, you got to go to YouTube and you get a rip from the show, I don't know, recorded from CBC and then ripped from VHS. It's potato quality and it cuts out. Why did we never get a studio we needed a studio properly produced version of the Zit Remedies Everybody Wants Something.
I am so impressed with you. What an incredible fan you are.
Why did you not consider this, Mr. Musician, lawyer, producer? Come on. That was you were the one to say, Linda, we got to get them in the studio now.
I have to admit, picturing the Zit Remedy on top of the Billboard charts was
Oh, maybe a 680 CFTR might have played it. Who knows? Okay, so moving on from the Zit Remedy. Last question on Degrassi. I'll save the rest for Linda because I want to get to the new music. And Andy, you will be back here. I'm only addressing Andy right now because she's on the live stream. Come back for the Linda episode, and that'll be much more Degrassi. Obviously, I could do 90 minutes with Steven here on Degrassi, but School's Out. I mentioned it several times. I did a 2.5-hour episode about School's Out with Cam Gordon. It has F-bombs in it.
Yes.
Okay, so how'd you get how was that process? Like, who did Linda say, "Hey, I think we can do this in prime time" or whatever? Like, can you tell me how the heck F-bombs made their way to CBC? I don't know what that it aired at 8 o'clock, I guess.
Well, and it was the first and last time that the F-bomb was
Last
on
time,
CBC.
eh? Okay.
But, Degrassi, Linda really tried to make Degrassi as authentic as possible. And I use authentic in a sense in quotes because if any parent were sending their kids to a real live Degrassi school, they would be run away. You do not want to go there. All these horrible things happen.
Right.
I mean, there's fun things, but there's funny things, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of horrible things. But
Bathroom violence.
yes, there is so much that goes on, but trying to be authentic. And in the moment when, somebody is finding out that, you fucked Tessa Campanelli, it is just what you would say. And so, of course, it was filmed both ways. But CBC decided, you know what? This is just what somebody would say. They are so overwrought. They are so caught up in the moment. This is what they would say. So they let it go. And I think in reruns, they used the alternate version. I think it only went on the air once.
Give me the OG version every single time here. Okay, well done. I'm glad you did that. And it's wild that it never happened again. So that was it, I guess. It's like, we're doing this once. That's amazing.
Certainly would never happen in the U.S. version.
Right. Now, you mentioned Aubrey Graham Drake. We talked about him, whatever became of him. I don't know, Google him, see what he's up to these days. But Stu Stohn, who we talked about. By the way, Stu Stohn, a huge fan of yacht rock. We did a whole episode with Stu Stohn about his love of yacht rock. And now there's a documentary series on HBO. Like, yacht rock is having a moment. And I want to give Stu partial credit for bringing that back. He's a big Michael McDonald head. He wants me to ask you a question, Stephen. Do you know Aubrey Winfield?
Oh, I certainly know Aubrey Winfield.
So who's Aubrey Winfield?
I had breakfast with Aubrey Winfield yesterday.
Get out of here.
Yes.
While we were talking about you and Aubrey Winfield, you were having breakfast with who is Aubrey Winfield?
Well, he runs a wonderful little studio called the Orange Lounge. And in fact, I'm a part owner of the Orange Lounge. I'm the chair of the board of Orange Lounge. It is a nondescript, I call it a nondescript oasis on the third floor of a building on Queen Street West. You would not know it. There's no sign out front that says Orange Lounge. You would not know how to get there. But everybody from Amy Winehouse to Katy Perry to Kanye West, there's Drake, of course, and
Tragically
Justin
Hip?
Bieber. Tragically Hip actually had an office on the fourth floor there for a long while, and we're doing songwriting there.
Nelly Furtado?
Nelly Furtado, tons of stuff there.
Imagine Dragons?
Imagine Dragons,
Wow.
Ellie Goulding. It just goes on and on and on. Have appeared in the Orange Lounge, and it's only got one main studio, but it's got a good old Neve board and candles all around and a kind of Moroccan theme. So artists just like, speaking of Imagine Dragons, their manager had said, we have to have a certain type of food. It has to be Thai food, this, that, and the other. So Aubrey gets all the Thai food, and they're in the studio, but he's making grilled cheese sandwiches for his gang, and they smell the grilled cheese sandwiches, and they come out and they say, "What is this Thai food? Can you make us those grilled cheese sandwiches?" So,
That's comfort food right there.
Yeah.
So thank you, Stu Stohn, once again for the perfect segue. So we're going to get back to the Orange Lounge. We're going to talk about the Orange Sessions. I'm just going to give you a few gifts right now, because then maybe you'll give me another gift, Stephen. No pressure, okay? But I do have in my freezer upstairs a large frozen lasagna from Palma Pasta. They sent it over for you, Stephen. It's delicious. Italian authentic food from Palma Pasta.
I love it. Thank you so much.
And thank you again to Palma's Kitchen for hosting us on Saturday. We'll be back in about a year's time for what might be TMLX, let me do the math in my head, 20. So thank you, Palma Pasta. This wireless speaker right there, that's courtesy of Moneris.
Oh, wow.
Because with that quality wireless speaker, Stephen, you're going to listen to Season 7 of Yes, We Are Open. This is an award-winning podcast hosted by Al Grego. Al was here 2 days ago. We played songs reminiscent of each episode from this Season 7. And the final episode of Season 7 features a an FOTM. That means friend of Toronto Mike. Stephen, you're now an FOTM. Soon Linda will be an FOTM. But Tyler Schwartz and Jordy Schwartz, they run Retro Festive, which is a unique pop culture and Christmas store. So they're hopping right now. They're in Oakville, Ontario, and they were the subjects of Season 7's finale of Yes, We Are Open. And you've got a wireless speaker there to listen to Yacht Rock and this wonderful podcast.
I am so thankful, and I am impressed how you weave product placement so organically and seamlessly throughout the podcast.
Well, it took me 1,593 episodes to get it right, Stephen, but I'm auditioning for a role. Maybe I could be a teacher if there's ever another Degrassi.
I will say that. There will be another Degrassi. It won't be Linda and I producing it. But
there goes dashing my hopes and dreams here.
We'd love to be consultants on it. But the world needs Degrassi right now. In everything that's going on, artificial intelligence, all the divisiveness,
right? Social media, all this.
Yeah,
so we need. So wait, but who owns Degrassi?
A company called Wild Brain. They do everything from Teletubbies to Peanuts. They're mainly an animation company, but they bought us a number of years ago.
Okay, hopefully you did well in that transaction.
I did okay.
I'll get to see what car you're driving. Okay.
Yeah.
Fresh craft beer, courtesy of Great Lakes Brewery. They brew here in Southern Etobicoke. They actually sent beer over to the event we had on Saturday. Everybody got a can of fresh craft beer from Great Lakes. That's also a parting gift for you, Stephen.
Thank you so much. And, of course, I have a gift for you.
Oh, my goodness. Another gift, because you've already given me Whatever It Takes. This is a book everybody should check out here. And I see here's Christopher Ward got a much smaller font than Stephen Stohn.
Well, what happened? I was writing the story of, basically my life.
Right.
Although I call the book, this book will change the way you think about success, because I do have there's a chapter in there where I talk about dreams and planning, and which actually to me is the most important chapter. But it's got a lot of the things that we talk about. But because I'm a lawyer, there are some of the stories that I could not tell because it would be a breach of solicitor-client privilege. So what I would do, Christopher said, well, what I'll do is I'll interview the client, and then you can just quote them, and you can get the story out that way. So that's what he did.
Amazing.
He provided the interviews.
So Whatever It Takes. And so before you give me the last gift, I'm just going to give you one little piece of advice, which is if you, Stephen, and maybe Linda, and you have a whole room full of old electronics, old cables, maybe laptops that haven't been booted up in 15 years, who knows what's going on over there. But you don't throw that in the garbage, because then the chemicals end up in our landfill. You actually go to recyclemyelectronics.ca, put in your postal code, and you find out a place near you. You can drop it off where it will be properly recycled. And we want to thank recyclemyelectronics.ca. They just renewed for another 12 months of sponsoring this program to keep it going so we can have conversations like this.
They are great people. We have actually just done exactly that, and somebody recommended that we send it over to there. We had a whole bunch of old electronics. What do we do with them?
Right.
Okay.
Don't throw it in the garbage, everyone. Go to recyclemyelectronics.ca. So I'm eager to talk about Opus 42 Ode to Summer, but maybe you give me a gift, then maybe I play a song, and then maybe we talk about how perfect that Aubrey Winfield segue was from Stu Stohn and the Orange Lounge, and we're going to get into this to take us home. And then your job when you leave, of course, is you're going to get Linda to visit me at some point.
I will speak to her as soon as I get back.
Hey, you know what? Don't even just call on the phone on the drive home.
And, of course, the gift is called the Orange Sessions, recorded at the Orange Lounge, that beautiful oasis in downtown Toronto.
Wow.
And here you go.
So the tragic, was it like, what is it, Jake Gold had an office there or something? Like, what do you mean the Tragically Hip?
It wasn't Jake, no, it was the guys themselves. They used it as a songwriter studio.
Because Gord moved here, but the guys stayed in Kingston. So Gord Downey was living in Toronto, and the rest of the guys stayed in Kingston, Ontario.
Yeah,
so maybe they needed a home base here.
Yeah.
Amazing. So what am I holding exactly? So this is, well, you know what? Let me play some music, and then you can tell me exactly what I have here. GTA rhythm section, the orange section. By the way, it's beautiful. And I love it, and again, in a moment, it'll make sense if there's a Beach Boys vibe going on here. That's going to make sense in just one moment here. But let's play it, because I will tell you, I've been using it as so I start the live streams early, live.torontomike.com. But I need something. Usually I play Music for Airports by Brian Eno. Like I'll just let it play. It's perfect kind of background music or whatever. But what I started to yesterday, I started looping this. And my goodness, it's excellent. So let's listen to some of this, then I'll bring it down and we'll talk about it.
The moon shines softly on my broken heart, but I will love again. I will love again. The girls on the beach, all khakis and peach, the one with the wavy hair. And all that you want is fun in her lies, hoping your heart ain't bare. Donna is here in blueberry skies, taking your breath away. All that you need, all that you want, summer is here to stay. Have you seen her writing letters in the sand in Ventura Bay? She's my girlfriend, but she doesn't know it yet. She may. I dream to hear my girlfriend. I need to figure out a plan, make her mine someday, and get my nerve up. Write her letters in the sand, however, find myself away. End up walking hand in hand, I've got to find myself. How it takes you home, though you don't know why. Wind just whispers under moonlit skies. You can't shake it off, you gotta let it fly again. All the girls go east of Laurel Canyon, starlight in their hair, and the boys all follow unaware. All the girls on east of Laurel Canyon, starlight in their hair, and the boys all follow
I don't even want to fade this down. This is really an opus, my friend. Holy smokes. Opus 42, Ode to Summer. Tell me everything. What the heck are we listening to? It's great.
It started 60 years ago. I was chatting with the uncle of one of my friends, and he told me a story. He said, I had a dream a few years ago, and in the dream, I was walking down a street I hadn't walked down before, and I saw this library. And in the dream, I went into the library, and it was a very specific dream, because I went to the third row down, and then down at the bottom shelf, there was this yellow book. And that was the end of the dream. Well, the next day, I took a different route home from school, and in fact, I was going past this library that I'd never been in. And so I went into the library, and I was a little bit apprehensive. I didn't know whether I needed a card or whatever. But I thought, I'm going to go to the third row and see what is there. And sure enough, there was a yellow book in the bottom shelf.
What?
And he said, this is my gift to you today. This is a copy of a book called An Experiment with Time by J.W. Dunn. It was written in 1927. And J.W. Dunn's theory was that when we dream about a whole bunch of things, wish fulfillment, all the things we know we dream about. But quite often we're influenced by things that have happened, say, in the past 24, 48, 72 hours, and little bits of it will go into the dream. But his theory was we also dream about things that happen in the next 24 to 48 to 72 hours. So I became fascinated by dreams. I used to write down the dreams, and I have had, and I won't go into this now because it just sounds, people talking about dreams are very boring, but I have had dreams that unquestionably, it could not be coincidence that I've dreamt about something like turkeys flying with 7 heads, but the next day I would be strangely never in a butcher shop or something like this, and there on the ice is 7-headed
What?
turkey. It's like,
Yeah, that can't be a coincidence.
it can't be. So I've always believed in dreams. I believe very strongly in goal setting and trying to figure out what it is you want with your life, and using your dreams to help you move forward. So, long story short, about 2 years ago, I had a series of very vivid dreams, and in them, I was very naturally a singer, songwriter. So I'd be called up on stage, and I would have no problem. I've been doing this for years and years and years, clearly, and I would sing this song. And when I woke up, I would have this melody in my head and this kind of nonsense lyrics. And eventually I thought, I've got to do something with this. So I would just wake up, and then in my iPhone, I would just sing, oh, the girls go east of Laurel Canyon, just in a very cracked voice because it's that time of the morning.
Yeah.
And after about 6 months of this, I thought, what am I going to do with it? I thought, surely there's a song in here. Well, I tried writing a song, but nothing really came together. And then a friend of mine was talking about the Ableton software program, which is sort of like Pro Tools. You probably use Pro Tools, or maybe
I use Audacity.
Okay.
Yeah, but I know of Pro Tools for sure.
Yeah. And up until now, I'd never had the chance to actually do my own demos, but I learned the Ableton software program. It took months, and I was very feeble at it. And I started laying down one of these and then another. And then I thought, there's 9 different fragments here. And there was about 20 in total, but there's 9. And they sort of tell a story. They sort of tell a journey of summer. And what I now call it is, the phrase that I use is, summer comes and goes, but always comes back. And if we're lucky, love is the same. And I was able to string them together in this weird way because they were all different tempos, different time signatures, and it should not have been fit together. But in fitting them together, they didn't have the recurring chorus that we know. We know the 3-minute pop song. We know there has to be a recurring chorus. It didn't have that. But nevertheless, it seemed to hold itself together. And so you talked about Jeff Rogers. Yeah. I was chatting with him one day, and I played him this demo that I'd made with me singing the harmonies, just chirping away in my dining room, really, just me on a Macintosh computer. And I said to him, this is a song that should never have been written because it defies all the rules of songwriting, and besides, it's written by a 76-year-old, and it's 9 minutes long,
right? And
should never be recorded, and if recorded, should never be released. And we laughed about that. And he said, yeah, you're absolutely right. When are we going into the studio to record it? So that's...
Okay, now I have so many questions, but one is that there's this Beach Boys-esque harmony, and then I dig into, like, who am I hearing here? And tell us, like...
Well, and it's a wonderful thing, and I'll give great credit to Jeff Rogers about this. Yes, it's Beach Boys. My idol is Brian Wilson. I have flown to London. I've flown to Los Angeles. I've flown to Vancouver to see Brian Wilson, not because his performances are great. I mean, he could barely sing in his later years.
Right.
But just as an homage to his great harmonies and his terrific melodies. So, yes, I would love people to say, hey, that sounds a little bit like, Brian Wilson could have written it.
Absolutely.
And Jeff came to me one day. He actually just sent me a YouTube link of this guy, Matthew Jardine.
I know that surname.
And he said, listen to this guy. And it was in concert, Brian Wilson and Al Jardine, two of the original Beach Boys.
Right.
And they're in concert. They don't play as the Beach Boys because I think Mike Love has the trademark for the Beach Boys.
So I hear.
But they had a thing, I forget, it was something in Friends or Brian and Friends or whatever. And they would go around and they perform under that. But they were old enough, and this Brian no longer performs, but up until a couple of years ago, he did, and Al would be there. But neither of them could really hit the high notes anymore. So Al's son, Matthew Jardine, would sing the high notes. And Brian, so on the YouTube video, it's like Brian saying, hey, now we've got, a song you might remember. Matthew Jardine, come out and tell us, wouldn't it be nice? And you go, wouldn't it be nice?
Yeah.
And so, Jeff, we got this demo tape that we'd recorded at the thinking it was just a demo tape to Matt, and he loved it, and he said, "Yeah, I'll sing it, and I'll do the background harmonies as well."
Wow.
So that is Matthew Jardine, son of Beach Boy Al Jardine. Talk about dreams coming. I started 60 years ago with dreams and using dreams and making dreams come true. And here's Matthew Jardine, the Beach Boy, the son of the Beach Boy, singing my song. So we did that. And then my friend Jim McGraw, with whom I and Jody Calero wrote the Degrassi theme song, I went to Jim and said, and he'd written he does terrific orchestrations. He'd done orchestrations for the Tragically Hip and others.
Wow.
But he'd done all the score for the Degrassi series. And I said, Jim, could I hire you to do some instrumental orchestrations? And he said, no, you cannot hire me. We've worked too closely together in the past. I will do whatever for you. We're friends.
Wow.
You can't hire me. I'm happy to do the orchestrations. But I do have one requirement of you. And that is we have to use real strings and horns. These will not be synthesized. But I've got some great guys who will do it
Jim.
for you.
Glad to hear this. Okay.
Yeah. So then and now you've played it. You hear those real strings. And you
It's
hear
like
those
George
real-
Martin or something was behind this.
Well, I know, or Paul Buckmaster or one
Right,
of those
of
people.
course.
Yeah.
It's extraordinary. And I couldn't kind of believe it's one of those things where it's like, what do I compare it to? But it's like, I don't have anywhere really to fade down because it's sort of like it's these segments, and I don't have a music vocabulary whatnot, but it's sort of like an opera, an opus. It is appropriately named. It is fantastic, and it sounds great. And then you hear this Beach Boys sound, and the fact that it's Al Jardine's son, it's sort of like it all comes full circle and makes complete sense.
Yes. And of course, the title Opus 42, which is just, a fanciful thing. 42, as we know, is the meaning of life. So.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I thought it was an homage to the summer of 42, summer of 42 here. Okay. So Opus 42, Ode to Summer. And this, like, how can somebody get their mitts on the Orange sessions here?
Well, the signal that you just played is available everywhere, like Spotify and Amazon and Apple and all that.
Right.
The vinyl, if you go to stephenstohn.ca, but it's in weird spelling because it's my name, so it's STEPHENSTOHN.ca. You can actually get the vinyl edition there. And next Sunday, another song will come, Falling All Over Again, which I will just say is a real song. It's 3 minutes and 25 seconds
it's
long.
Not 9 minutes long. And by the way, when I say 9, we say 9. We're not rounding that number down.
No,
it's actually 9 minutes
It's exactly 9 minutes.
That's wild, too.
Falling All Over Again, I started writing 30 years ago for Linda. It was a song we hadn't gotten together, we hadn't gotten married, and I wrote part of the song then and played it for her, and she was very moved by it. And then when we were in the studio doing the opus, we thought, hey, we've got some time. Why don't we could record this too? So I quickly wrote a new middle eight and changed it around, and we came up with Falling All Over Again, which I love. And then we said, Once in a Long Time, that was a song that came out 50 years ago and was one of the big hits for Christopher Ward. Let's re-record that. But back in the day, it was more like a Barry Manilow kind of thing. Let's make it more like Lizzo. So we recorded that. So
Wow.
It's really just the 3 songs on the A side.
Amazing. And am I right that so that music's amazing and that story is unbelievable, and I'm so glad I got to meet you. But was reading the notes. So Jeff sent me some notes, and it says you have been nominated 28 times for in Canada's National Television Awards ceremony. That's the Canadian Screen Awards, which we used to know as the Gemini Awards. But you've won 14. So do you have 14 trophies on display somewhere?
Oh, absolutely. We love having the trophy. And of course, between Linda and I and Degrassi, we've got a whole bunch of awards like Emmys and Peabodys. And we were recently inducted into Canada's Walk of Fame.
Wow.
Yeah. So you sort of, but each award is meaningful. You love it. My favorite award, by the way, I mean, the Peabody is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But we got a surfboard for a Teen Choice Award for Degrassi way back in the day. And it's an actual surfboard, but it's hand painted by an artist, and it's awarded to Degrassi. So we've got that up in our kitchen at home.
I gotta see this home, okay? Holy smokes, I gotta see these trophies. But Stephen Stohn, my brother does the PH on Stephen as well, so that's like my default setting. So I think the other guys got it wrong. I think it should be PH, but a little biased.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, because what a pleasure it was to meet you. And thank you for the gifts. Whatever it takes is the book. People can get that book. And of course, so the title, it's the Orange Sessions, and you call yourselves the GTA Rhythm Section?
That just came out of nowhere. Somebody said, what is the name of the group? And it's not me singing or whatever. And I thought, the Atlanta Rhythm Section, the Wrecking Crew, great studio musicians. We've got our own version of it. It's called the GTA Rhythm Section.
Well, I love that song. I'm glad I feel like it might be a little short, the 9 minutes. So if you have like an 18-minute Indigada Vida version or something, I would play that while we start the live stream before we get rocking here today. By the way, if you're ever looking for a keyboardist, I'm just going to throw this in the universe because he just re-recorded this song for the closing theme. Rob Pruce, he was the keyboardist with the Spoons during their heyday. He co-wrote Romantic Traffic, for goodness sakes, but he was a 15-year-old teenage phenom when he made his debut. By the way, this is kind of a full... This is kind of a little... I got time because it gave me room in this intro here. But he made his Spoons debut on December 8th, 1980 at the Edge. It was a Gary's presentation. You might know something else happened on December 8th, 1980. John Lennon was murdered that night, and that was the night that Rob Pruce will never forget. For that reason and the fact he was on stage with the Spoons as a 15-year-old making his debut. But Rob Pruce took a song called Rosie and Gray for Lowest of the Low, and he covered it, and he added these wonderful Easter eggs at the end, and that's how we close every episode. And I'm actually sorry to be closing with you because I'm enjoying this chat. I could have gone another 2 hours, but we're going to get Linda down here, and I will see you again, my friend. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you, Mike. And by the way, I know the music is still playing, so I can keep on talking.
You got time, yeah.
The first gold record that I ever received, because back in the day, lawyers would get gold records with their clients. Ready Records was one of my very first music clients, and the first artist that they signed was the Spoons and Nova Heart. And so I've got the gold record for Nova Heart on my wall.
I'm going to need a moment, Stephen. You might have to take over. I can't do the extra. That is a mind blow. I'm going to cut that out and play because Rob comes here every month for Toast. He drives all the way from New York to do that.
Rob's fantastic. So I would have known him way back in the day. That must have been
he's on that album. He's on Nova Heart.
Yeah.
So absolutely. In fact, Gord Depp composed Nova Heart on a keyboard he borrowed from Rob Pruce.
Oh, cool.
It's what a small world we live in. And that brings us to the end of our 1,593rd show. Go to TorontoMike.com for all your Toronto Mike needs. I'm on Blue Sky, enjoying that. I'm at TorontoMike.com there. Much love to all who made this possible. That's Great Lakes Brewery. Here's the Easter eggs. It's Palma Pasta. It's RecycleMyElectronics.ca. It's Minaris, and it's Ridley Funeral Home. Do you recognize this song? That's the Friendly Giant theme.
Oh, my Lord.
Do you recognize this one?
I do, but why do I recognize it?
This is the jingle for Pizza Nova that Alfie Zappacosta made.
Oh, it's a great jingle, too. When they go into that huge, it's not on here, but the huge vocal chorus.
Yeah, I've had Alfie on just to talk about it. Can you name this song? This is Romantic Traffic by the Spoons.
Oh, my God.
Rob co-wrote. And I think we got one more coming up. Okay, this is the theme song for Kids in the Hole. Shadowy men on a shadowy planet's having an average weekend. Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you so much, man.